Hey there, so in recent times I've become obsessed with primal flow, primitive movements, animal flow, whatever you want to call it. It's the weird calisthenics thingy where you do the crawling on the ground. And the reason that I've been interested in it is that I have, as you can see, I don't know if you can see from here, terrible mobility in general. I've been training for 10 years. I'm still more limber than I started as, but not that limber, just generally speaking. And so I realized I needed to do something to kind of change that. The other thing is I'm tired of all of these siloing off of different fitness things, and I want to just do something that covers all my bases, or as many bases as possible, because I'm a busy guy. I'm not very patient anymore. So do you even flow, bro? That's what I'm going to find out today. So first off, I'm just going to go through the basic structure of a primal flow or animal flow workout. I've been mostly reading through the animal flow resources. Again, I'm very new. So first thing you want to do, you're going to spend a lot of time on your wrists. You just want to warm them up. Going to do basic whatevers. There's kind of a few different, basically moving your wrists in different ways, moving the fingers, that kind of stuff. The one that is most important to me is the one where you're stretching your wrist extensors, where you're stretching your wrist extensors, so you basically are putting your hands together, like the back of the palms, and then you're just kind of pulling your elbows down. And you're stretching up in here, which you're going to be using a lot. This feels especially good because of my burpees push-up work. I already do a lot of time on the ground, and this area tends to get very tight and very banged up. But from what I understand, there's two main positions that are kind of used as the basis for warming up and also as a transition point for almost every movement. So these positions are the beast, which I'll demonstrate right here. So it's similar to a bear crawl, except that your knees are only slightly off the ground. So this is kind of your anterior chain, front of the body focused one. And then besides the beast, you have the posterior chain focused crab exercise. So this is the same position you get into for the crab walk, which is something that, a lot of kids did in gym class. So you're probably at least a little bit familiar with this one. And this one feels really good because it's just working areas of the body that are really not often hit by calisthenics. You start in your beast position, right? And you're just going to work on balance. So this is really interesting to me. Before you actually even getting into the moving portion, you're already kind of working on stability, because that's a major factor here. And believe it or not, this is like a massive core challenge. You'll see in a second. So what I'm doing is I'm just lifting one limb off the ground as little as possible. And actually the amount I'm shifting is not ideal. As you get stronger, you should be able to shift less and less. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do two at a time. Like I said, I'm still very new to this, so you can kind of see I'm a little wobbly with it all. And then you basically do the same thing with the crab. So again, this is just the warm up here. Think of it kind of like doing your planks or your core work at the beginning. So again, I'm just doing one limb at a time. I'm just trying to lift it as little as possible and shift the rest of my body as little as possible. So for the crab, I find that the upper body part is more challenging. And for the beast, I find that the lower body part is more challenging. I think with the crab, I'm just kind of less familiar with this position. It's a little bit foreign to me. So when you're doing the two at a time, make sure that it's cross body. So if I'm lifting my right arm, I'm lifting my left leg, that kind of thing. So you've got the wrist warm up down. You've got kind of the basic muscular core warm up down in the two positions. Then you have a few other things. So I'm probably not going to do all of them because I don't remember all of them off the top of my head. I'm still memorizing the format. But they have what's called position-specific stretches. So the idea here is that you are just mobilizing in certain positions. And this is the thing that I really like about these Primal Flow type workouts, is that you are becoming not just mobile or not just flexible, but you're becoming very strong in these positions of mobility and very balanced. So if you can't be stable and strong in these extended positions, then it's kind of pointless to me. Like, you have to be able to move into these positions comfortably. And so the other thing I really like about a lot of these exercises is about, half of it or so is just transitioning from one movement to the other. And I think that often in calisthenics, we have kind of a gym mentality where it's very linear and we don't really think about the transition between movements. But then when you're out doing any sort of athletic activities, the transition movements are where you're getting hurt and where you're getting beat up. And first one I'm going to be doing, I think, is called the deep 8. So first ideally your knees are almost touching the ground, but I'm not quite that flexible yet with my feet. So you're reaching out, extending. You can see this is a huge balance challenge for me. And then I'm kind of squatting back, but at the same time reaching forward. So as far as I can. So it's a big stretch of my hips and my spine and shoulders. I'm trying to go through like full range of motion. Starting here with the beast, kind of back on all fours. And then I'm sort of ending, so extended with my arms, and then I end in a cobra. But again, I'm keeping my knees low to the ground the whole time. So I'm really just using the strength of my body and my core to move myself along. And the next one that I think is important is the scorpion. This is basically a rotation. So you want to start in kind of a downward dog position, except you have your knee a little bit bent, and then you're doing a cross-body mountain climber almost. And then you're reaching up, and I'm not very good at this yet. It's a lot of hip mobility. So I'm kind of pushing back into a pike, except I have my back leg extended and twisted. So again, from the other side. So push back into that pike while twisting with my lower body. So you can just feel it through my obliques, through my hips, through my low back. It's also a good stretch for your shoulders, and your lats a little bit on the side. So once you've done that position stretches, you're just trying to now basically become dynamic. And a good example in this case would be the ape walk. You're reaching out, you're basically starting in a squat, then you're reaching out, diving onto your front hands, and so you're landing on your front hands and then bringing your body with you. So you're not like pulling yourself, you're basically just hopping out, and then your hands are your legs. It's the best way I can describe it. So I'll go ahead and demonstrate. It's a little hard for the balancing, and your body's gonna have to get used to just absorbing the shock through your wrist, which is why that warm-up's really important for your wrists. So here we go. And then one thing I like to do is the traveling lateral ape. For whatever reason, laterally is a little bit more comfortable for me. I could not tell you why, but basically for that, I'm just reaching to the side, lifting up my butt, and then kind of moving. So I'm trying to get my butt as high in the air as I can. So there's a little bit of a hand balancing element. And again, I think usually this is probably the more hard for somebody, but I don't know if it's just my anatomy or what, or just previous training experience, but the lateral feels a lot better, a lot more natural. So a lot of times with these positions, when in doubt, just kind of start in a squat. And what I like about the squat is it's probably the easiest transition point towards, you can kind of move in any direction. I can move to the side, I can move forward, I can move backwards. So it's pretty easy for me to drop down into the beast, my hands will be up here, or to reach back into the crab. Once you've got your static crab down, you're working, I think they're called crab reaches. It's almost like a twisting bridge. So I'm having my fingers face backwards, and I'm just pushing up with my hips, reaching and trying to twist. And then I do the other side. And I'm not very good at it yet. These rotational movements, I think, are probably the most valuable part of the primal movements, apart from just getting good in the squat. Kind of transitioning back to the squat. Another thing I've been doing is kind of just what I'm calling extended duck walks. So the duck walk is usually a very short range of motion. You're almost doing as little as possible. I'm basically turning the duck walk into more kind of a low lunge, is the way I would describe it. Almost like a wrestler's lunge where you're getting somebody from the ground. What you do differently is you're basically just increasing how far you're putting your leg out. So here I'm kind of reaching and bringing my leg down low to the ground. So I'm not trying to touch with the knee and switch all the weight there. I'm just trying to kind of reach. And this feels really challenging on the hamstrings, the glutes, and of course on the knees. And additionally, it's building a lot of mobility in that lunge and in that squat position, which are very essential. So the way I'm doing it is not graceful yet, but eventually you'll get to a point where you're kind of flowing. And that's really the goal with all these, is to flow naturally.